Turn 1 Soul Ring.
So hello everyone and welcome to our first installment of our lore series.
Lore series 1?
One. That's right. It's going to be 001 for like when we get to triple digits. You know, we don't want it to screw up the whole thing like Y2K. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
That was scary.
Yeah. Planes falling from the sky.
Yeah, nothing bad really happened though, huh?
No.
It was just like fear mongering.
Yeah.
And people sold a lot of like water, like survivalists.
Yeah.
It was very, very good for department stores for sure.
Oh, yeah. I wonder how many people have stockpiled
It's like still.
like bunkers, you know?
Well, have you ever watched Extreme Preppers on Netflix?
No.
It's like people that like live out in like the desert or like areas where no one else lives, and they just like save food and like they have tons of ammunition and stuff like this, and they're just like prepared for the apocalypse.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'd be broadcasting that if that was me, because then if it does happen, you have these people that watch the show on Netflix coming to find you.
Yeah, they're like, oh, I know where that place is.
So, but to each their own, I guess.
You bought
Yeah.
the stuff, you got to do something with it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you buy all the ammunition, right? You want to be... So over the next few episodes in this series, we're going to be explaining the events surrounding the Brothers' War. So
Which brothers are those?
those are the brothers Urza and Mishra of famed magic lore. And this was kind of... I started playing Magic back in the Urza block, Urza Saga, and so forth. So, and that's like many, many, many years after the events of this this story. But I've always been very interested to find out what actually happened.
Where all this comes from. Is this the oldest piece of magic lore? Or can you go back further still?
The first few sets, because like for most of Magic's, or
Just like the lore and story.
a big chunk is Dominaria, like the very beginnings of Magic. But the first few like alpha beta sets really don't have lore to them.
Yeah. They're just starting out with the basis of the game.
Exactly. So like this set, the set that this book is based on is Antiquities, which was released in March of 1994. And that whole set encapsulates like the Brothers' War. And that's why like a lot of the artifacts and things and places in this story are represented in cards from that set. And I think the set, I don't know what came out before Antiquities, but Antiquities was the second expansion set. So I think with the expansion sets, that's when they started doing lore, because the original like Alpha, Beta, Unlimited, those were all core sets. That's why they don't refer to them as expansion sets.
Yeah. I think like one of the first expansion sets I remember was that the one with the flag.
The one with the flag. Alliances?
Maybe.
Alliances was after this, because Alliances was in the it was Ice Age. Alliances,
Arabian Nights,
which
is the first expansion set.
And like, you know, the lore of that set is a lot of like I think it's based on a lot of like folk tales from like that part of the world.
Yeah.
But yeah, so our source material for this is the set Antiquities, but it's also the Brothers' War novel, and that novel came out in June 1998. It was written by Jeff Grubb, and we're going to be taking most of what we're going to be talking about in these episodes from that book, just because it's just a very straightforward story, and that's what we're going to be doing.
Yeah.
So
we just say Arabian Nights was the first. Antiquities is the second ever expansion set.
That's right.
That Magic did. So we're pretty early on in, which is really cool.
Yeah. So it's a good place to start. And this book is the first book in the Artifact Cycle book series. So, that this is just the beginning of Urza's story, and we could really, if you guys enjoy this, we can sort of go all the way to the end of Urza's story. If you like, I'm sure we'd both be interested to find out what happened.
Magic lore is very interesting, and it's also like a piece of what makes the game more enjoyable as well, I feel. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I think that's something that it has over a lot of other games, and especially like the this very early lore. It's a little more PG-13 than it has been, in the more modern era of Magic. Not always, but that seems to be more common. But Urza is such a legendary figure, right?
Very.
So I think he's very different from the planeswalkers that we we have now, right?
Yes.
Like the original planeswalkers of what were they originally from Lorwyn? I think the original 5.
Ooh, that's spicy. I actually don't know.
I think it's Lorwyn, and then they were all reprinted in a core set shortly thereafter, and then they've been reprinted in different products and things over the years. But before we get to the Lorwyn.
Yeah, the first 5 planeswalkers reprinted are known as the Lorwyn 5. Ajani, Jace, Liliana, Chandra, and Garruk.
Nice. That's right. So we're going to do just a little bit of a Brothers War novel overview. So like I said, the Brothers War is the first novel in the Artifact Cycle book series. It tells the beginning of Urza's story. The remainder of Urza's story is told in the subsequent books. I think there are 4 or 5 of them. And we do have a blurb here from the cover of the book, the back cover, and I'll just read it here. Dominarian legends speak of a mighty conflict, obscured by the mists of history, of a conflict between the brothers Urza and Mishra for supremacy on the continent of Terrasiar, of titanic engines that scarred and twisted the very planet, of a final battle that sank continents and shook the skies. So, that's sort of just referring to, after reading the book, that's pretty much just the final battle that they're kind of referring to. So you're kind of losing a lot there, but I think Eric and I both prefer the description of the Brothers' War from the flavor text of Strip Mine, which is, unlike previous conflicts, the war between Urza and Mishra made Dominaria itself a casualty of war.
That's a really good blurb compared to because the book is just kind of hey, a war happened. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's big tanks and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but
and the art on Strip Mine is a very clear representation of what
just a crater.
Yeah, what the war did to and that what it did to Dominaria, and that happened everywhere, or the continent that they're on specifically.
That's actually pretty interesting too, because there's if you're mining out all the resources and stuff for war,
right?
It's kind of what strip mine is. You just totally,
just storing lands, right?
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very flavorful.
Very. Love it.
Yeah, that's what this is all about. Flavor. Okay, so we're gonna get
flavor. I'm sorry.
Oh no, that's perfect.
Oh boy.
We're gonna get into the just sort of the summary of the book here. This is going to be the bulk of these episodes. So the first part here is what I've named a pre-war.
Sure.
So it's just kind of how Urza and Mishra kind of got to the point where they, I guess we're in a, this is pre-war, but
pre.
Yeah. And the book takes place over about 65 years. So just keep that in mind. It's basically their entire lives.
Yeah.
But before we get to that, we think it's important to understand where the brothers came from and where their story begins on the path to the war.
Who is their mother?
They don't ever
probably.
They don't ever get into that. We the father is a character that they talk about, but we never meet him, and he doesn't last very long into the book. But I'll just explain sort of the kind of climate of the continent at this point when the brothers are about 10 and we first meet them in the story. So what you have Argiv, where Urza and Mishra are from, and the capital there is Penregan, and then you have Yodia, and the capital of that is Krug, and then you have Corlys, and these are all big countries that are urban. They have cities, and then you have this huge desert, and the desert is filled with different tribes, and some of them get along and some of them don't. The most powerful tribe is the Sawardi tribe, and there's sort of a distinct difference and dislike between the city people and the desert people. And There's not a full-on war happening, but you don't have a lot of cross like people from the cities living in the desert and vice versa.
And I'm sure if you were like from a city and you're traveling through the desert, like if you ran into these people,
they'd get you. They'd probably enslave you.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of tension and there's a lot of discrimination and there is a lot of violence. So, without the brothers getting involved in this world, had they never gotten involved, there may still have been a big war.
Yeah.
But they definitely...
they ended up spearheading everything.
They really did.
Yeah.
By the end of the whole thing. But like I said, it might have happened anyway. Might not have been as bad though. But anyways,
the other interesting part about this is that we're talking about like all these different countries and stuff. And sometimes I feel like with magic we have different planes. Only like certain areas are talked about, and you're just like, oh, it's just this like area over here, this area over there. But this is kind of like making it really seem like, this is like a whole planet.
Yeah, a real
which
world.
is what a whole plane is, right? Yeah,
yeah. And it's kind of like when I was reading it, I was kind of thinking of like about Dune, how you have like the main city. And then you have like the big desert area, and then you have the people that live in the desert, and they're sort of, they're almost like a different species because of how much spice they consume, and they can read the worms in the storm, and the city people don't like them, and they're kind of like mysterious, and that's sort of what's going on here.
Dune-esque.
It is Dune-esque. I'm sure they took a little bit of material from old Frank Herbert, but nothing's original these days.
Yeah,
right?
No, nothing. I wonder when Dune was big. I wonder if that's actually part of when this was getting around too.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know when Dune was originally written. This was written in 98, and Antiquities came out in 94. So,
what about that Dune movie?
The Dune, maybe. I think the Dune movie was like the late 80s.
Yeah.
So that movie's terrible, by the way. If you've ever you should, if you haven't seen it, you should watch it just because of how bad it is. It's enjoyable.
Yeah. It's been a long time. I think I watched it when I was really young.
Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah.
So Urza and Mishra are sent from Penregan, the capital of Argiv, to study in the Falaji Desert under the archaeologist Tokasia by their father. Their father, who recently remarried another woman with children, had taken very ill a short time before he sent his sons to the desert. And they're not really specific about this, but he does marry their father marries a younger woman, and she has younger children. So they'd be Urza and Mishra's stepchildren, and stepbrothers.
Yeah.
But she kind of like Urza and Mishra do come from nobility. So their father is quite wealthy, and it kind of seems like it's like the stepmother is the one that was trying to get rid of Urza and Mishra, and not so much the father. So maybe we have a bit of a gold digger on our hands, and a man that's a little, he's old and sick, and so I think that might be what's going on, but they're not too specific about that. So once Urza and Mishra arrive at the dig site, they begin living and working in the Falaji Desert under the direction of Tokasia, a very old, almost ancient archaeologist. Urza and Mishra were born in the same year, but on the first and last days, respectively. They frequently clash and don't get along very often, and it's pretty equal in terms of who's the antagonist of the disagreements. So this comes up multiple times in the novel, and the born on the first and last day kind of thing that comes up a lot, and I think they just do that to show that Mishra has an inferiority complex, and maybe a way to show that this is the reason why they don't get along.
Yeah, because so basically Urza is pretty much a year older than Mishra.
Right, yeah. And what will come up sometimes is that if they're having a disagreement about something that one of them gets to do, and they can't decide who's going to go first, Urza will say well, I'm the older one, and Mishra,
I'm going to do it.
And Mishra says, well, except the last day of the year, because then we're equal. But you're not really equal, because let's say it's a regular Earth year. Urza would still be 364 days older than
always.
Mishra. They're never going to be equal. So it just keeps, it seems kind of silly. It's kind of fun, but it's just you could have just made them siblings that don't get along, because I think we all know just because you share DNA with someone doesn't mean you get along, or you're even similar.
Yeah.
Right. So anyways, that's just kind of like a little dig on the book. But other than that, I think it's a pretty solid read. So regardless of the brothers' differences, they are unified in their fascination with the Thran. Tokasia and her archaeological team are searching for artifacts of the Thran, an ancient civilization that left behind many powerful relics. And
Thran's Dynamo.
that's right, yeah, or like Fall of the Thran, right? The saga
Yeah.
card. Yeah, there's a few. And we got a few more like Thran inspired cards in Dominaria.
Yeah,
Seems like yesterday, huh? Dominaria coming
a
out.
little bit.
So as the two brothers work under the tutelage of Tokasia, they both gravitate towards different aspects of archaeology. Mishra is more interested in digging for artifacts, while Urza takes the role of cleaning and determining how and where artifacts work. Over the next 6 years, the two brothers rise to the head of their chosen archaeological departments in Tokasia's camp. It's at this point that a working Thran ornithopter is excavated by the brothers. Oh, and I forgot to actually pop in here in the outline that 2 years after they are at the camp,
Yeah.
so the brothers are about 12, roughly, especially on the last day of the year. Don't forget about that. They get word from Penregan that their father has succumbed to his illness and died, and there's no mention of an inheritance of any kind. So probably not going to get any of the money, which is too bad.
It's going all to the
I guess
remarry.
The remarry, exactly. Yeah, hashtag remarry.
Yeah.
And the brothers don't seem to really. They don't take it badly. They don't take it well. They kind of just. They don't really seem to have any kind of a like outward reaction.
They just kind of keep going with their lives.
Yeah, they do. And just to give a little bit of an explanation as to why the brothers were specifically sent to an archaeological camp in the Falaji Desert is that's what like people like nobles from the cities do, like rich people do with their children that don't behave, is they send them to Tokasia.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought the father was just sending them off because, this is a quest.
Right. No, it's just like we're just getting rid of you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
you're bad. And then
outta here.
and then after a while they come back. But like this is something that Tokasia has been doing for basically her entire life. But yeah, just
How long are they usually gone for? Does it say?
I think anywhere from like 5 years to a decade,
Sure.
but sometimes
Just
longer.
depending on how they are acting, probably.
Yeah, exactly. But
Are you delinquent still? Or?
yeah, and it seems, and like communication is pretty. It's kind of like, think of it as like medieval times.
Yeah.
Right. So communication is not
You
very.
can't just like call somebody up on a cell phone.
No,
it's not like that.
No phones.
Yeah.
So, it's like if you just never hear from your child again, it's like, well, I guess they're living in the desert, or maybe they're dead, or I don't know. Right.
Yep.
You kind of just,
I have no way of contacting them.
exactly. So,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why the brothers were sent there, because they were bad. Actually, like I said, I don't think they were bad. I think it was the stepmother. But I don't want to read too much into it. So, like I said, they after about 6 years, they excavate a working Thran ornithopter. They do have to make some changes to it, but to repair it and actually make it flyable. And at this point, during a test flight of the ornithopter, Mishra is able to see what looks like an ancient Thran encampment in the desert.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
Interesting here.
yeah, and then they do have to make some changes to the ornithopter so that it can carry multiple people. So they sort of build a bigger like cockpit so it can hold Mishra, Urza, and Tokasia all at the same time. And during so on a later ornithopter expedition with the three of them, Urza, Mishra, and Tokasia, they discover the ancient heart of the Thran civilization in the caves of Koilos.
Hey, Caves of Koilos.
That's right. That's the Orzhov Painland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, Painland's so good. Oh man, have you seen the price of like an Apocalypse Shivan Reef?
No.
It's nuts. Because of Pioneer, but also the foil. Oh, like it was already expensive, but oof, it's
no.
rough. Yeah, like it was like $32 or something. I checked, not the foil, the regular. But yeah, it's
For a
about Apocalypse. But all the other ones, all the other like modern printings that aren't the old border, are like they're a little more expensive, but they're not that bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just Pioneer because you can run Painlands. But they're even good in modern. Like if you want to have a budget mana base, they work well.
I have my Storm deck has 4.
Yeah.
Shivan Reef.
Yeah, they're great. They don't come into play tapped. They're awesome. Also great for Commander.
Yeah.
So, anyways, they find the caves of Koilos. So, if you've seen that land, you know what you're looking at.
And so this is where they find the ancient heart
Of that's
Thran.
That's what they think it is. It's sort of like Portage and Maine for us.
Sure.
Which is what that's a joke, but or I guess
right, yeah. So it's not a physical heart. This is like the heart of where they all were. In terms of,
It's okay. So it's funny because sometimes like Eric will make jokes and I will also take them. Not that was a joke, but I'll take them like way too literally, and he just looks at me like I'm an idiot. So it's everybody makes mistakes. Yeah. So so they travel into the caves of Koilos, and Urza and Mishra find a large green power stone.
Oh, right.
And so we've all seen like mana rocks that are power stones, right?
Yeah.
And that's basically how the Thran powered all their artifacts, is with these power stones. And the way things are now at this point in the story, people don't know how to create power stones. They don't know how to take a non-working power stone and make it work. But if you can find power stones, which is what Tokezia does, as part of what she does, you can use those power stones to power the artifacts that they also find. So
powering the Ornithopter would be a power stone.
Yeah, they needed a power stone. And when they found it, it had a working power stone.
Cool.
So, and they really don't know a ton about the Thran. They don't know what they look like.
Yeah.
They don't know where they came from. They don't know when they became extinct or how.
Just this ancient civilization from the past.
Yeah, that was very technologically advanced.
Yeah. Kind of like Atlantis.
Exactly like Atlantis. Yes. So when both brothers reach for the power stone, it shatters in two, and each brother takes half of the shattered power stone.
Seems like Destiny.
Kind of, yeah. It does seem a lot like Destiny. They discover that Urza's stone makes machines more powerful, while Mishra's weakens them and allows Mishra to control them. Urza names them the Might Stone and the Weak Stone, and those are depicted in the cards of the same name from Antiquities.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I think they're both artifacts, and the Might Stone gives creatures you control +1/+0, and the Weak Stone gives all creatures -1/-0.
Attacking creatures get +1/+0 for the Might Stone.
Okay.
And then Weak Stone?
Yeah, Weak Stone.
Attacking creatures get -1/-0.
Okay. Yeah. So kind of garbage cards, but
yeah. I have to say the art on the Weak Stone is great. It's just like a little gremlin thing with a collar.
yeah, it's very good. And the Might Stone's a fist, right?
It's just a fist.
Yeah. The brothers have a falling out when they will not let the other one examine or even see the other's stone. They're almost immediately very protective of the stone, and they don't want to share.
You can't have.
Yeah. And they can only, imagine what the stones can do. But they also have an idea that the stones only work for them.
Yeah.
So the stone, like Mishra's stone, wouldn't work for Urza.
Yeah, because it's their stone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. They get back to the camp, and they travel back and forth to Koilos over the next few months, and they continue to do their archaeological work and all that stuff. But about 10 months later, the brothers' relationship has only gotten more volatile. They no longer speak to one another unless it's to accuse the other one of doing something untoward or just to kind of be a piece of shit.
All right.
Yeah. And
so they're around 13 at this point?
They're about
14?
They're about no, they're probably closer to about 17. They're about 10 when they got to the camp.
Yeah.
And it's been about 7 years. So yeah, they're about like 17, 18 roughly. And actually the book is laid out in a way like the timeline works at the beginning of each part of the book. It's about 4 parts. And they do it's like the years like AR, and that stands for
Argivian Reckoning.
Yeah, Argivian Reckoning. So the way that the timeline, the way it works in this story, and in all like future stories, is it's measured in AR, and the Argivian Reckoning is the birth of Urza and Mishra. So that's year 0.
Okay.
So this book takes place between 0 and 63 AR. So that's how the timeline works. Which is kind of so like during this time, that's not how people were measuring time, because they didn't know that Urza and Mishra would be these huge historical figures. But
Yeah, but then going back, this is how you do it because they are.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're not getting along. They're not having a good time. They're still very much doing what they do at the dig site. Mishra he's basically in charge of digging things up, and Urza is in charge of figuring out what the things are and how they work once they are dug up.
Cleaning them up and such.
That's right, cleaning them up, making them work. So their conflict comes to a head one night when a drunken Mishra confronts Urza and demands that he should have Urza's stone for himself. So, it's sort of like don't drunk dial,
Yeah.
Just like, if you can't control yourself,
Don't do it.
don't do it.
Yeah.
So the brothers begin to use their respective stones against one another, and they shoot out like beams of light. So Tokasia, seeing that this is happening from outside Urza's hut, she goes in and tries to intervene. And when she breaks one of the energy beams with her body, just by like walking in front of it, it causes an explosion, destroying the hut and killing her.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so she's down for the count.
I feel like Mishra and Urza are going to take this a lot more than they did with their father's death.
Probably,
This
yeah.
is the person they've been with for the past, now 7 years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Mishra is horrified by Tokasia's death, and he flees the dig site, never to return. Spoiler alert. And to Urza's protest, the excavation site is closed.
Whoa.
So he also has to leave.
Wow, this is just starting things off here.
This is starting. Yeah, this isn't even we're not even close to the war. All right, we got so much more stuff here.
It's still just Urza and Mishra, where they come from.
That's right. But this is the point in the story where they separate, and they're pretty much living their lives separate from each other for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
So they're never going to be. It's only going to get worse from this point. So Mishra flees northward to Koilos. He doesn't really know why. He just goes in that direction. Maybe, he feels some sort of kinship. He's being pulled there. Maybe it's his stone. We really don't know.
Familiarity. They've been there before.
Yeah. So he's on his way to Koilos, and before Mishra can make his way all the way to the caves, he's found and enslaved by the Swardi tribe.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were kind of talking about that earlier, and they can tell that he's not a desert person, but they even enslave desert people too, right?
Yeah, if they're not part of their tribe, it's like, now
Sure.
you are.
Yeah, it's like Tuscan Raiders would enslave other Tuscan Raiders if they just found them and they
Yeah.
weren't a part of their group. So another fun a representation of the desert people versus the city people. The Swardi are, like we said earlier, the most powerful of the Falaji desert tribes. The Swardi that find Mishra in the desert strip him of anything valuable he's carrying, including the weak stone. So no more weak stone. The weak stone is given to the Swardi tribe leader, also called the Kadir. And although the Kadir had no idea what the stone was or its true power.
And also, the stones don't work on people, do they?
Well, they don't really work on people, but the only instance where they attempt to use them on people is the situation where Tokasia is killed.
Okay.
So Urza and Mishra do use them on each other, but
Yeah.
I don't see. And they really don't really explain this in the book. This is kind of an interesting theory that I had, is they don't explain how much the stones are in control of the situation. Is it, how much is it a symbiotic relationship, and how much are they just power stones? Because of what they can do and the roles they play in the story, they seemed like more than power stones.
Yeah, they maybe leftover AI of the Thran or something.
Yeah, something.
Yeah,
But I think this is the only time they're used on an organic creature.
because maybe Mishra could have tried using the weak stone on the Swardi.
Sawati. You can do the hard R. We're Canadians. You're saying it wrong.
Oh God.
Yeah, I think we're pretty good though. Like we don't have too much of like a regional accent. We're not like, oh, you betcha.
No, we don't have that.
We don't have that here. Yeah, we're lucky that way.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. And
thanks for being here. This is obviously something we want to try doing, so it's fun to branch out.
Yeah. So. And this was so much fun, like doing like this sort of like devoted like lore episode, because like you guys know how I like to pepper lore into that. Eric loves the lore too, so this was just so much fun that we can just like get into this and talk about it instead of talking about the cards.
Yeah.
Which is fun, but this was just like a ton of fun to research.
Totally. So if this is something you guys like, obviously let us know.
Yeah, for sure.
We do love the lore of Magic. Mm-hmm. And again, like we said at the beginning of the episode, at the top of the episode, the tap that it just really adds to the game of Magic, and really is another thing that makes it stand as one of the best like card games out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's safe to say it's the best.
It's the best, yeah.
And we'll just we'll keep going until we get to the end of the war.
Yeah. Find out what happens.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye now.
Turn 1 Soul Ring.